Hello, welcome to this on-demand session. I'm Jake Ross. I'm the team lead for our network security sales team here at Bytes. And today we're joined by Raghu at Illumio, and we're going to be talking about network segmentation and visibility. So do you want to introduce yourself?
Thanks, Jake, and thank you to the folks at Bytes. Great to be here and working with our partners. As Jake introduced me, I'm Raghu Nandakumara. I'm head of industry solutions at Illumio, and we're the leaders in zero trust segmentation, really helping customers leverage the power of segmentation to ensure that they reduce the risk of cyber threats to their organizations.
Cool. Well, let's get straight into it. So we obviously mentioned that, I guess, businesses are having data center transformation, cloud transformation. Would you mind just, I guess, highlighting some of the challenges that we've seen for businesses and how Illumio are overcoming them?
Yeah, absolutely, right. So as part of sort of transformations, I think organizations obviously want to know what it is exactly they are moving, what it is exactly they're transforming. So the way we aid that is that our visibility capabilities help organizations really understand how their applications are functioning today, to allow them to understand all the relationships their applications have and use that information to inform how they then need to go and move those into the cloud. And of course, right, some organizations as part of a cloud transformation will be doing a lift and shift initially to go and sort of benefit from consumption of IaaS in the cloud, whereas other organizations will often be doing a full sort of re-platforming and re-architecture of the application to make it truly cloud native. So in either of those cases, in the former, right, we obviously help them understand the way the application is functioning today and all the relationships, right? Allow them to then securely move that into their cloud environments, validate that all those kind of interdependencies continue to work. And we know that as we move applications, often you have dependencies between cloud and data center, right? And that connectivity needs to exist. And also secure that to ensure that those applications are properly protected. And if they're going truly cloud native, then our cloud secure capabilities allows them to ensure that their configuration of things like their security groups, which are protecting not just their IaaS assets, the compute assets, but pretty much anything that has sort of a network exposure within their cloud, we give them the capability to understand the usage of those and really kind of tighten those controls down so that they're always sort of tending to a better security posture, right? So it's understanding the existing way their application is functioning today, being able to protect that in place, protect that as it moves to the cloud, and as it transforms to becoming truly cloud native, continue to enforce that visibility and protection. So that's how we enable organizations with their cloud transformation.
Okay, so there's two tiers, I guess. It's not just, hey, here's visibility, here's your risk, but then with Illumio, we can then actually then enforce a policy to further protect it as well. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely, right. And I think that the sort of the visibility is almost like the first step in that journey towards a better security posture, a more least privileged posture. And if you want to call it sort of trust, it's at the first step in that. And we enable, particularly around protecting workloads, protecting applications, we enable customers in every aspect of that journey.
Okay. And I guess not to put you on the spot too much, I said I'd go off on one. Is it worth just talking a tiny bit about how Illumio does that protection? I appreciate there might be people that are watching this going, oh, I've done segmentation before and they've heavily invested in kit and moved that around. But is it worth doing a minute or two just to how Illumio works in that space?
You've challenged me, so I'll try and summarize it in 90 seconds, right? I managed to do this at another sort of fireside chat the other day, so I'll give it another go. So if you think about sort of traditional approaches to segmentation and network segmentation, it's very network centric, right? So typically that segmentation is between two networks, or two VLANs, or two network zones, and often implemented through some kind of sort of network security device, whether that's a firewall, whether that's a network ACL, right? That's a very traditional approach. The challenge with that is that trying to do that at granularity, which is really, we want to do, when we were talking about segmentation, we're really trying to get as granular as possible without control, right? So trying to do that with the granularity that you want and at the scale that you want to do is a huge challenge when you're trying to do it with a network-based approach, right? Because you have the challenges of the architecture, the operational challenges that over sort of having a very complex network architecture brings, and also try and chop that down into lots and lots of little network segments. And we know sort of what that leads to from an operational perspective. So, but not that, you're also then dependent on the fact that you need to have some form of homogeneous network architecture to allow you to do this organization-wide, right? So from an Illumio perspective, our approach is, well, if that's where the complexity is, let's essentially take the network infrastructure out of the equation, right? And let's focus on something where we have a far better control and we can deliver that granularity. So we take a host-based approach to segmentation. And in the case of, let's say in the cloud, we leverage the cloud native constructs like security groups and so on, right? Yeah. That way, we're able to deliver security right down to the individual workloads that we're trying to protect. So really at the smallest granularity, but with a consistent unified security policy that extends to all parts of your organization, right? So, and visibility across all of this. So effectively, we're lifting above the network, right? Which means that, to the former question, as you transform from data center to cloud, right? While this is a completely different architecture to what you have in the cloud, that security policy can essentially move with it without a glitch. So that's the quick attempt at explaining what we do, right? Without getting too much into the nuts and bolts.
Yeah, not sure it was 90 seconds, but I'll give it to you.
That's about 3 minutes, about 180.
Yeah, that'll do. So I guess we spoke about this transformation and the change that we're seeing. And I think as Bytes, we're having a lot of conversations around ZTNA or Zero Trust Network Access. Would you mind just talking a little bit about how Illumio potentially would complement a ZTNA program or ZTNA technologies?
Yeah, absolutely. So ZTNA, I think, is a hugely sort of important change in terms of how it enables organizations to make their applications accessible to their users, right? And it provides a great more security and flexibility to that. But really, what is ZTNA? Ultimately, ZTNA is about securing access from the outside into applications that are hosted in your data center, hosted in your cloud, wherever they may be, right? So it's still very much an outside-centric view of security. Where we complement is that where ZTNA stops is really where segmentation starts, right? So if you think about ZTNA is about delivering the user securely into the application that they want to access, segmentation is ensuring that should that be compromised for whatever reason, that user or that sort of that bit of like malicious code, whatever it may be, cannot easily continue to spread across the rest of the estate. So ZTNA protects sort of getting in, right? Segmentation ensures that anything bad cannot spread out of control.
Yeah. Okay. So even if something bad does get in, it's instantly blocked. Okay.
Yeah,
that makes sense. So we obviously spoke about, I guess, how you would work or complement a ZTNA technology. But I always talk a little bit about your tech alliance partners in this space. I appreciate it's not just a standalone, pop it in and off we go. Can you talk about, I guess, the additional problems that you're helping customers solve?
Yeah, and I think that so something like segmentation, and in fact, any good security technology is far more sort of is kind of the sum of its parts. It is far less than sort of like that teamwork, right? And with something like segmentation, it really touches on different aspects. So you can think of, for example, from your asset inventory, right? So integration with things like your CMDB to provide that contextual information about workloads that are interacting. That's a key kind of interaction point with other technology existing investments, with things like the SIM, SAW, that the organization is invested in, such that the data from the segmentation platform, particularly around visibility and sort of policy decisions, can be used to inform incident response, incident detection and response, right? Also, for example, particularly organizations that have a large number of sort of non-traditional IT infrastructure, right? So whether that's, let's say, in the manufacturing sector, in the healthcare sector, where they have a lot of connected devices, often what we find is that the IT view of the estate is limited to those traditional IT systems. So by partnering with sort of technology vendors in the OT security space or the OT visibility space, right, we're able to take their view of that connected infrastructure and bring that data into our platform to better inform the risk-based visibility that we provide. And from there, customers can then use that to go and properly protect sort of their OT from their IT infrastructure, because we know that often that those OT components, particularly something like healthcare and manufacturing, they're fundamental to the operation of their business, right? So yeah, so it's really like, I think from an Illumio perspective, these technology integrations, what they do, we see them as ways of firstly enriching the metadata and enriching that risk-based visibility that we provide, but then also providing a value add into existing processes, right? And be that your incident response process, as I mentioned, right? Be that your sort of your asset inventory and kind of validating things like your service mappings, if you're using something like ServiceNow. And for example, where you want to extend that sort of unified security policy and you want to be able to extend control to, let's say, your perimeter firewalls, being able to sort of integrate directly with, let's say, like a Palo Alto firewall and program security into that from a central console, such that segmentation rules in your internal network, where necessary, where they touch an external connection point, that policy is consistent, right? All of these things really enable our customers to sort of get better value, right? And a more consistent security posture across their estate. And that's really what we're looking to enable.
And would you get involved with customers, I guess, talking about a risk management program? So how early in that conversation would you want to be in? I guess, how can the capabilities of Illumio, I guess, enable and enrich that program?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty much any security technology, ultimately you're investing in it because you've identified an existing risk that you want to mitigate rather than just accept. So kind of Illumio as a security platform is really no different from that. And where sort of how could we integrate as part of that, right? Well, there are a number of places. For example, it could be that you have a vulnerability management program, right? And you want to better inform your patching strategy, right? By understanding your exposure. So it's not just sort of, I have vulnerabilities here and here are my critical assets, but also informing that with, and how connected, how reachable are these assets, so that I know where I'm going to get my most bang for my buck with my patching, right? So that we enable something like that. On the other on the other extreme, it could be that I have a compliance mandate and I need to go and I need to protect my franchise critical systems, right? And we've seen this particularly in the financial services sector, in sort of like the healthcare sector, where they're dealing with a lot of PII data, right? So whether that's around something like HIPAA, whether that's around sort of in financial services, you're handling, let's say, cardholder data with PCI DSS, or something like transactional systems like SWIFT, franchise critical mandates to ensure that they're properly protected and segregated from the rest of the infrastructure, right? So again, that is compliance driven. Segmentation very much enables that, but also it could just be about building better resiliency to be able to withstand increasingly common sort of ransomware attacks, right? And again, they're being able to just say, I know that these ports are high risk, ransomware commonly leverages them to move, right? So I want to go and ensure that my infrastructure is protected from those common attacks. All of these things are really about risk mitigation, and Illumio enables all of those.
Yeah, and I think maybe one of the things I've taken away today is that almost paired approach. So the visibility, which can help with the risk program. I love the example around you potentially have a vulnerability scanning tool and you get a report back that says, hey, here's 500 vulnerabilities on your network. Where do you start? And you could then rely on a solution like Illumio to say, well, actually, with these 5 over here, there's I guess the widest spread or the widest risk to the business. But not only the visibility, which can help enrich data, but also then enforcement of that to say, you know what, with the example you use with the ZDNA tool, yes, we can secure this access, but actually when something bad happens, we can also stop it at point rather than getting to the point where it's spread all the way across the network and you're in a bad place, let's say.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for giving me some time. Yeah,
my pleasure,
watching this, I hope you found it educational. Please, if you do want to learn more about Illumio or segmentation, network visibility, please reach out to your Bytes account manager, or you can email tellmemore@bytes.co.uk. Thank you, Raghu. Catch you soon.
Cheers, Nick.